She threw champagne in my face, screamed I was a liar, and smiled when the crowd started filming. Everyone laughed. I didn't. That was the night I stopped being someone's husband and started being a ghost. I walked out of my life with nothing but a worn-out backpack and a plan I'd been quietly building for nearly a year. 2 years passed. Then she found me, in Maine, on a quiet morning, where the only sound was the wind moving through pine trees and the crack of a hammer against wood. "How did you survive?" she asked, voice trembling. I gave her 2 words, and those 2 words broke her more than anything I ever could have said with anger. But to understand how I got there, you have to understand the rooftop. It was one of those influencer events Lauren obsessed over. A rooftop party, 38 floors above downtown Seattle. String lights zigzagged overhead like cheap constellations. Candles flickered on every table. Some skincare brand launch, I think. Or maybe another makeup collab. I stopped keeping track after the 5th. This could change everything for me speech. Lauren had been buzzing about it for days. She even laid out a navy blue shirt for me, said it would photograph well under the lights. I wore it. Let her take 15 photos in our apartment lobby before we even left. I smiled in every shot. Not because I felt like smiling, but because I'd learned that was easier than being asked why I wasn't. That's what a good husband does, right? You show up. You support. You stand beside the person you love, even if they stopped seeing you a long time ago. At 9:15 p.m. sharp, everything changed. I know the exact time because I looked at my watch, wondering how much longer I had to pretend to be enjoying myself. That's when a champagne flute exploded at my feet. It didn't fall. It flew. Lauren had thrown it. Golden liquid splashed across the marble like a spotlight, catching the shimmer of my shoes and soaking into my pants. Every conversation died. Heads turned. Phones lifted. And then came the tears. Lauren's face collapsed in on itself like a collapsing stage curtain. Bottom lip trembling. Mascara beginning its strategic descent down her cheeks. It was perfect. Too perfect. I'd seen her practice that face in front of the mirror, perfecting her vulnerable breakdown for TikTok. And now she was doing it for real. With a live audience. "I can't live like this anymore," she choked out. Loud enough for half of Seattle to hear. "Tell them, Ethan. Tell them what you told me." I stood there, dripping, frozen. We hadn't fought. We hadn't even talked that week. She'd been glued to her content calendar, color-coded and hour by hour, like a general planning a war. Her sister Jessica stood nearby, right on cue, pretending to look shocked. Then came the line that broke something inside me. "He's been lying to me for years. About everything. It's over." The crowd gasped. Phones recorded. Whispers buzzed like insects. I saw Tom Bradford, an old co-worker from the factory, standing off near the bar. His mouth hung open, his drink halfway to his lips. And then, just like that, Lauren's face broke into a smile. "Just kidding. It was a prank." Applause. Laughter. Cheers. Someone shouted. That was insane. Jessica high-fived her like it was the grand finale of a game show. Lauren threw her arms around me while still holding her phone, filming the reaction, already scrolling through likes. I didn't move. Couldn't. The music came back. Conversations resumed. The moment passed for everyone except me. Inside, something turned off. Not broke. Just clicked to silent. I watched her giggle as she read comments. 15,000 likes already. God, they love us. I walked to the edge of that rooftop, stared out at the skyline, the lights, the cranes, the faceless city we'd tried to call home, and realized the man I'd been before that night had just died. No big scene. No final words. Just silence. When I turned around, Lauren was filming her follow-up clip. She didn't even see me leave. The apartment was dead quiet. Lauren had stayed behind, of course. More people to impress. More fake moments to capture and repackage as authenticity. I could picture her on that rooftop, retelling her prank to another circle of strangers, watching her phone like a gambler pulling the lever one more time. I stood in our bedroom doorway, staring at what used to be ours. One corner now belonged to her ring light and tripods. Boxes of beauty samples stacked like bricks. Our wedding photo half covered by foundation bottles. I couldn't remember the last time either of us looked at it. The shower turned on down the hall. She was home. She hummed to herself. That light, happy sound she made when the night had gone exactly as planned. While steam filled the bathroom, I moved. Laptop first. I logged into the finance app she'd deleted from her phone months ago because it was ugly. Ugly maybe, but it had been slowly moving our money. For $100 here, $800 there, into accounts she didn't know existed. All structured by my lawyer, Daniel Hart. I'd called Daniel 8 months ago, the night Lauren joked on livestream that I was replaceable. Her followers laughed. I smiled, and I started planning. From the back of the closet, I pulled out the fireproof box. Inside, passport, birth certificate, $5,000 in cash, copies of every important document. I added tonight's final piece, the signature-ready forms Daniel had prepared. I picked up my phone. Last message from Lauren. Don't wait up. Going to Morgan's after party. This video is blowing up fire, fire, fire. No concern. No guilt. Just momentum. I dialed Daniel. He answered on the second ring. It's time, I said. No hesitation. I'll file everything first thing Monday. You sure? From the bathroom, another ping. Another stranger laughing at my humiliation. Yeah, I'm sure. I left at 4:45 in the morning. No note. No speech. No dramatic pause in the doorway. Just a man with a backpack, a truck 3 blocks away, and the quiet certainty that everything behind him was already dead. Lauren was passed out on the couch. Phone in her hand. Half a glass of wine sweating on the coffee table. The TV was paused on a still frame of me, soaked in champagne, humiliated, blinking into the glare of her camera flash. The caption read, "When your husband can't take a joke. Part 1 of our prank series." Part 1. She was planning sequels. I slipped off my wedding ring and left it next to the coffee maker. Not for drama, just to make it clear. The Ford F-150 waited in the same spot I'd left it 2 days earlier. Registered under a Delaware LLC she'd never heard of. Daniel had handled all the details. The mailbox in Vancouver. The storage unit. The quiet moves. By 7 a.m., I was at the front door of First National Bank. The safe deposit box held my grandfather's watch, the deed to a cabin in Maine, and $25,000 in cash. Money she couldn't trace. Documents she had signed without reading. Too busy posing with toner bottles and hashtags about self-love. By 7:15, I was eastbound on Interstate 90. Seattle shrinking in the rearview. My regular phone sat on the passenger seat, screen still glowing. It would be at the bottom of Lake Washington before sunset. The burner stayed off. Only Daniel had the number. Somewhere outside Hood River, I pulled off the highway, bought coffee at a truck stop, and stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. 38 years old. Mechanical engineer. Former husband. Soon, none of those labels would apply. The face staring back at me wasn't broken. It was focused. Lighter somehow. I thought about that rooftop again. The crowd laughing. The phones recording. Lauren smiling. Let them laugh. They weren't watching me. They were watching the ghost I left behind. Lauren woke up late. 10:43 a.m. Her neck stiff from sleeping twisted on the couch. She plugged in her dying phone and opened Instagram before even brushing her teeth. The prank video had gone viral overnight. 800,000 views. 12,000 comments. 15,000 new followers. She smiled, scrolling. Your husband's reaction is priceless. This is hilarious. Couple goals. You're a genius, LOL. Then came the other ones. This is emotional abuse. Not funny. He looked devastated. If this is real, you should be ashamed. Lauren rolled her eyes. Some people didn't get it. It was a prank. Ethan would come around. He always did. She walked into the kitchen, still wearing last night's dress. That's when she saw them. 2 rings on the counter. Hers. And mine. Ethan, she called out. Silence. She checked the bedroom. Empty. The closet looked untouched at first glance, but she felt it. Something had shifted. Something was gone. She called my phone. Straight to voicemail. She sent a text. Okay, you made your point. This is childish. No reply. By noon, she was dialing my job. Tom Bradford answered. Lauren? Hey. Can you let Ethan know to call me? He's not here. Lauren. Ethan quit 2 weeks ago. Her stomach dropped. What? He gave notice. Said he was relocating. Figured you knew. Lauren ended the call and stood frozen in the middle of the apartment. Relocating? We hadn't talked about moving. Not once. Not ever. She tried logging into our joint bank account. Denied. Mortgage account? Denied. Streaming services, grocery app, all of them locked. Her hands shook. She called her sister. Jess? Something's wrong. What do you mean? Ethan's gone. I mean really gone. He quit his job. I can't access anything. His phone's dead. There was a pause. Then Jessica's voice, uncertain now. How long has he been missing? I don't know. I fell asleep on the couch. He could have left hours ago. Maybe he just needs time? Lauren looked at the rings again. At the coffee pot still set for 7 a.m., untouched. Cold. He hadn't just left. He'd vanished. On the fourth day, Lauren hired a private investigator. Andrew Collins. Ex-cop. Quiet eyes. A recommendation from a Facebook group for influencers with sensitive PR situations. They met at a downtown Starbucks. I need you to find my husband, she said, sliding over an envelope. Inside, photos of me, a description of the truck, a screenshot from the tracking app, the last known ping before I disappeared. Andrew flipped through the materials. How long has he been gone? For days. You file a missing person report? No. I don't want the police involved. This needs to be private. He raised an eyebrow. Why? Because the last thing she needed was this headline. Popular influencer's husband vanishes after viral prank. Sponsors were already nervous. One campaign had quietly been put on hold. Andrew agreed to take the case. $2,500 up front. Daily updates. He started with the basics. Phone records. Nothing. Credit card activity. Dead. Former co-workers. No contact. A week passed. Either your husband went completely off-grid, Andrew said, or he knew exactly how to disappear. Lauren's Instagram was bleeding followers. Not fast, but steady. 10,000 gone in 6 days. The prank video had become a meme for all the wrong reasons. She disabled comments, but the screenshots were already circulating. Reddit threads, TikTok stitches, Twitter roasts. Influencer destroys marriage for content. Modern narcissism at its peak. Jessica came over with wine. Maybe he just needs space, she said softly. Lauren shook her head. It's more than that. His laptop's gone. His bag. The fireproof box. The coffee machine still says 7 o'clock, but it never brewed. He was gone before I even woke up. Jessica didn't argue, because a man who only takes what matters isn't planning to come back. That night, Andrew called with an update. I found something. Security cam from a gas station in Hood River. Morning after he left. Lauren held her breath. He paid in cash. Bought a coffee. Got back on I-84 heading east. East where? Andrew paused. Could be anywhere. Idaho. Colorado. East Coast. He's got a huge head start. Lauren stared at her phone long after they hung up. She opened her message app. Typed. I'm sorry. Just, please tell me you're okay. She hit send, and knew it would never be read. Maine didn't feel like anywhere I'd ever lived before. The air had a weightless kind of clarity, like it had never been polluted with noise or ambition. The sky didn't just hang above you, it swallowed you whole. And the silence? The silence rang louder than every rooftop party, every comment notification, every shallow apology I'd ever endured. 2 weeks after disappearing, I found myself exactly where I was meant to be. A few miles outside Bangor, tucked at the end of a dirt road carved into pine forest, sat Second Chance Ranch, a rehab and volunteer shelter for struggling vets. No brochures, no applications, no questions. Just a man named Jack Turner, standing beside a crooked barn, holding out a hammer like it was a lifeline. Jack was 68, Vietnam vet, built like the last tree standing in a hurricane. He didn't care about what you'd done or what you'd lost, only what you were willing to fix. Barn roof sagging, he said. I nodded. And that was it. I was in. The first few days were quiet. That kind of quiet that tests you. No phone. No internet. No Lauren. Just wood, nails, wind, and the occasional rusted radio in Jack's office playing 70s country at half volume. There was a crew of volunteers, most of them college kids on summer break. Eager, well-meaning, and way too loud for that kind of silence. And then there was Mason Clark, 16. Furious at everything. The son of a Marine who never came home from Afghanistan. He didn't talk much, but his eyes carried something heavy. He reminded me of myself at that age, angry at things you couldn't name, and too proud to admit it hurt. On my third day, I was measuring out a timber beam when his voice cut through the dust. You gonna talk to that board all day, or actually cut it? I looked up slowly. You gonna help? Or just stand there flapping your jaw? He blinked, then smirked, grabbed the other end of the beam and held it steady. We worked in silence for over an hour. By the end of it, He was asking me questions about joint angles, bracing, and weight load. The kid had instinct. Sharp hands. Good eye. He just needed someone who didn't treat him like a problem. That afternoon, while stacking boards under a half-finished lean-to, he asked, "Your dad teach you all this?" "Some of it," I said. "The rest I learned the hard way." He nodded. "Mine wanted me to go Marines. Like him. Not sure I've got it in me." I set my hammer down and met his gaze. "You don't have to be what he was to honor who he was." Something shifted in his expression, just a flicker, but real. We didn't talk much after that. But the next day, he showed up earlier. Stayed later. Didn't complain once. That night, Jack pulled me aside. "That kid's changed since you got here," he said, watching Mason carry a wheelbarrow of scrap like it weighed nothing. "He listens now." I shrugged. He just needed someone to see him as a person. Jack grunted. "So what about you? You running from something or towards something?" "Little bit of both," I admitted. "That's fair," he said. "Long as you work hard, your past stays yours." And just like that, I was home. Nights were the hardest, though. Not because I missed Lauren. I didn't. I missed the version of her I thought was real. That's a dangerous kind of grief, when you mourn someone who never truly existed. I stayed in a tiny trailer Jack let me use. Fold-out bed, one burner stove, a cracked window that let in cold air and pine needles. But for the first time in years, I slept through the night. Once a week, I turned on the burner phone to check in with Daniel. He kept his end quiet and efficient. Divorce papers filed. Delivered to the apartment via certified mail. No response yet. "Let me guess," I said. "She thinks I'm still sulking nearby." "Most likely," he replied. "Or playing hard to get. She'll figure it out soon enough." Daniel paused. "You sure you don't want to push for anything else? Alimony? Brand equity? You could make a case." "I don't want her money," I said. "I just want out." Daniel respected that. He always had. A few nights later, I heard a knock on the trailer door. It was Mason, holding out a beer like it was a peace offering. "Figured you might not mind some company." We sat out front on two broken folding chairs. Above us, the stars looked close enough to grab. "You ever regret leaving something behind?" he asked quietly. I thought about it, then nodded. "Every single day." He glanced over. "So, you made the wrong choice?" "No," I said. "Regret doesn't always mean wrong. Sometimes it just means you cared." He didn't reply, just sat there beside me, sipping in silence. And I realized then, this place, these people, this rhythm, they weren't just helping me escape. They were helping me become someone new. At first, Lauren treated my disappearance like a stunt, a bad dream, a moody phase, an annoying inconvenience that could be cleaned up with the right filter, angle, and caption. But 3 weeks later, with no message, no sign-in, no Ethan, the dream began to rot from the inside. Brands were pulling out. Her Glow Beyond serum campaign went quiet. The fitness collab deal she teased for months? Ghosted. An upcoming podcast sponsorship dropped her, pending clarification of personal events. The clicks slowed. The comments turned. And suddenly, no one was calling her couple goals. Worse than the silence was the noise. Her name popped up on TikTok, not in promos, but in memes, duets, reaction stitches. How to emotionally wreck your husband in 4K. This didn't age well. Imagine pranking someone who pays your rent. The rooftop video hit 4.6 million views. But views weren't fans, they were witnesses. Reddit had a field day. Screenshots, breakdowns, speculations. A thread titled "The Silent Exit" got over 20,000 upvotes. Someone posted a timeline. Lauren humiliates Ethan publicly. Ethan disappears. No trace. Financial accounts wiped. Lawyered up. Burner phone. They even guessed where I went. Montana or Maine. Guys like this don't run to Miami. They run to wood and dirt and silence. She tried to control the narrative. A crying video. Muted tones. The word "overwhelmed" used 6 times in 3 minutes. But the algorithm smelled blood. And the crowd had already chosen a side. Jessica tried to help. "You need to just reset. Say you're taking time off. Do a wellness retreat. Something that shifts focus." Lauren stared blankly at her ringless finger. "Do you think he's okay?" Jessica hesitated. "He's not the type to hurt himself. He's the type to disappear." Lauren said nothing. She already knew that. What she didn't know, what truly burned, was how long I'd been preparing. The truth hit her the following week. She visited Daniel Hart's office, thinking she could charm her way into answers. She wore her softest sweater, Did the vulnerable smile. Used Ethan's full name like it gave her leverage. Daniel didn't blink. I can't discuss client matters, Ms. Brooks. We were married, she snapped. He gestured to the wall behind him. A framed certificate. The word divorced, already printed in clean serif font. Not anymore. Her stomach twisted. You helped him vanish. Daniel didn't answer. Just folded his hands. I'll see myself out, she muttered, standing too fast. In the elevator, her phone buzzed. An email. Subject. Final notification, lease termination. Body. Effective October 1st. Property rights transferred per separation agreement. Kindly vacate within 30 days. She felt the blood drain from her face. The apartment, the designer loft she'd styled for every brand collab, was in Ethan's name. She'd never noticed. Never bothered checking. He'd let her believe they owned it together. She clutched the phone like it was suddenly foreign. He had been planning this. Long before the rooftop. Long before the prank. He hadn't reacted out of rage. He'd acted with precision. Back at her apartment, her temporary apartment, she opened a drawer and pulled out the framed wedding photo. For the first time, she looked past her own reflection in the glass and really studied his face. Ethan had looked happy, but not in love. It wasn't joy. It was endurance. She'd mistaken his silence for weakness, his stability for obedience. And now that he was gone, really gone, she finally saw the man she'd lost. Not because he died, because she killed him piece by piece. And he walked away before there was nothing left. She opened her phone, typed his name into every app, every search bar. Nothing. His social media accounts were gone. His email bounced back. Even his Spotify playlists, which she used to tease him for naming things like Grit and Dust and Songs for Fixing Things, were deleted. She stared at the empty screen and whispered, please. Not because she needed him to come back, but because for the first time in her curated, filtered life, she was terrified she'd been left behind forever. 6 months passed. Seasons shifted. Snow softened the sharpness of Maine. Then spring returned, and with it, the rhythm of things growing again. Second Chance Ranch wasn't flashy, but it healed people in small, invisible ways. A broken fence post here. A dog rescued from a roadside ditch there. Mason learning to weld without setting himself on fire. A miracle, really. As for me, I was content to live quietly. Up with the sun. Tools in my hands before coffee. The trailer had become home, even with its tilted floor and creaky door hinges. Jack didn't ask questions. Mason didn't push. And no one here cared what I used to be. One evening, I stood in the field watching Mason teach a stray mutt how to sit. The boy who used to flinch at praise now beamed like he'd won something. What's his name? I asked. Duke, Mason said proudly. Because he walks like he owns the place. I nodded. Fitting. Mason squinted toward the hills. You ever think about going back? He asked. To Seattle? To anywhere you came from? I let the silence stretch between us like rope. No, I said finally. There's nothing left there for me. He nodded once. Didn't press. We both knew what it meant to walk away from fire and never turn around. That night, I found something wedged into the side of my trailer door. An envelope. No return address. No name. Just 2 words in handwriting I hadn't seen in over a year. Please talk. Inside, a folded letter. Lauren's handwriting, still neat, still dramatic, still curved like she expected it to be read aloud to an audience. She didn't beg, didn't scream, didn't blame. It was worse than that. She admitted everything. Not in detail. She was too proud for that. But the tone was different. Flat. Quiet. She talked about silence in the apartment. About waking up to echoes. About how even the lighting in the kitchen fell off now. She wrote, You were never the problem. I just made you feel like one, because that was easier than facing what I had become. I folded the letter back up and stared into the dark for a long time. It didn't make me angry. It didn't make me want her back. It just confirmed something I'd been learning out here in the trees. You can lose someone long before they're gone. Over the next few weeks, I got 3 more letters. All handwritten. All delivered the same way, quietly, without a sound. Mason noticed. You got a stalker or something? He joked. Something like that, I said. I didn't reply. Not once. She wasn't writing for me. She was writing to be heard. And I didn't know her an audience anymore. Meanwhile, the ranch kept growing. Jack finally let me rebuild the north shed. We built a chicken coop from scratch. And Mason got accepted into a welding program 2 towns over. He didn't say thank you. Didn't need to. I saw it in the way he walked taller now. People used to look at him and see a problem. Now, they asked his opinion on beam spacing and pressure points. One morning, as I was tightening bolts on the back gate, Jack called out from the porch. "You got company." I turned, half expecting Lauren, half hoping it was a mistake. But it wasn't her. It was a woman in a flannel shirt and jeans, hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked like she belonged out here. Except for the press badge clipped to her bag. "Ethan Cole?" she asked. I didn't answer. "I'm not here to make trouble," she said quickly. "I'm with a small documentary crew. We're filming a piece on digital disappearance. Your story, well, it's become something bigger than you might realize." Jack crossed his arms behind her. "I told her this wasn't the place," he said flatly. But she didn't flinch. "People are calling it the exit blueprint. Men and women who just walk away, who plan their disappearances. No violence, no chaos, just gone." I raised an eyebrow. "And what does that have to do with me?" She smiled faintly. "You're the original thread." Later that night, I found the Reddit post she was talking about. My husband disappeared after I humiliated him on a rooftop. Lauren hadn't written it, but someone had. Someone with enough detail to stir up speculation. Thousands of comments. Some admired it. Some debated the ethics. Some tried to reverse engineer how I'd done it. They called it the silent exit. They didn't know my name, didn't know where I was, but they knew the feeling. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen. By people who had never met me, but understood exactly why I left. The documentary dropped on a Tuesday. It was supposed to be small, niche, quiet. But the internet doesn't do quiet. Within 48 hours, the title, The Silent Exit, was trending. Clips spread like wildfire. My blurry silhouette walking into the fog. A voiceover about emotional erasure. The phrase, "He didn't scream. He vanished." TikTok turned it into a trend. YouTube stitched it into reaction videos. Podcasts quoted it like gospel. And somewhere in the chaos, Lauren found it. She knew the voice. She recognized the posture. Even through the grainy footage, she knew. I was alive, and I was better without her. I didn't watch the full thing at first. Mason did. He stood in the barn doorway with the tablet Jack had loaned him, earbuds in, brows furrowed. When the video ended, he looked at me and said only, "Now she knows." I nodded. The next morning, she arrived. I knew before she knocked. The air changed, the way it does before a storm hits. Her car door shut softly. She didn't slam it. A small mercy. I heard her footsteps on gravel. Hesitant. Then the knock. 3 soft taps. Jack didn't answer. He stayed in his chair on the porch, coffee steaming, unread newspaper in hand. I opened the door, and there she was. Lauren. No ring. No lashes. No filter. Just a woman standing in the shadow of a man she used to own. "Hi," she said. My voice didn't come. Not right away. Then, "Why are you here?" She swallowed. "I saw the video. I had to see for myself." I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. "This is private land. I'm not here to fight," she said quickly, "or take anything. I didn't know how bad it was. I thought it was just a joke." "You always thought it was just a joke," I said. "Even when it wasn't." She flinched. "I'm sorry." Those words didn't sting. They landed like dust. Too light. Too late. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Mason. He stepped out, face unreadable, standing beside me like a silent wall. Lauren glanced at him. "Who's this?" "My family," I said. Her face cracked, just for a second. The shift from confused to crushed. She wasn't used to being replaced. "I don't want you to hate me," she said. "I don't," I replied. "I don't feel anything at all." Mason cleared his throat. "You should leave." Lauren blinked. "Excuse me. You don't belong here," he said, steady. She looked at me for rescue. I didn't offer it. Instead, I said, "He's right." She opened her mouth, closed it, nodded, then turned, walked back to her car, and drove away. No drama. No final scream. Just tires on gravel and the soft return of silence. Back inside, Mason handed me the hammer we'd left by the door. "North fence needs a patch," he said like nothing happened. I took it, gripped the handle, exhaled. "Let's get to it." And we did. That night, I watched the documentary. All of it. My face never appeared. My name never spoken. But my story was everywhere. In the emails I got from strangers. The handwritten letter from a man in Arkansas who said, "You gave me permission to walk away." In the woman who wrote, Thank you for showing me that silence isn't weakness. They didn't know me, but they understood. A week later, I got a message from the producer. We're being nominated for a Peabody. I smiled, then turned off the phone. Fame wasn't the point. Peace was. July came quietly. No fireworks. No big declarations. Just long days, warm air, and the steady hum of a world finally making sense. Mason was packing. His welding program started in August. 2 hours south. Full scholarship. Dorm with 4 bunks and no air conditioning. You nervous? I asked one morning as we loaded the back of Jack's truck. Yeah, he admitted, but not in a bad way. He held up a battered tool belt I'd given him 3 months earlier. I'm bringing this, he said, in case someone needs help fixing something. That landed deeper than he knew. That evening, we grilled cheap steaks on the fire pit. Jack made his usual speech about being proud, but refusing to show it. Mason didn't say much, just kept glancing at me like he wanted to. When the sun dipped low and the first fireflies blinked between the trees, he turned to me and said, "Thanks for showing me how not to run." I almost corrected him, but then I realized I hadn't run. I'd just chosen a better direction. After he left, the ranch felt quieter. Not empty, just changed. Jack didn't say much about it, but the next morning, there was a new task list pinned to the shed wall. Longer than usual. I smiled and got to work. A few weeks later, I found a letter buried in a pile I hadn't touched. The last one from Lauren. It was thinner than the others. No perfume. No dramatic pen strokes. Inside, just one short page. I saw a therapist, it began. She said I confuse love with control. That when I feel insecure, I try to stage everything, even people. That tracked. But it was the last paragraph that hit harder than I expected. You probably won't believe me, but the night before you left, I wasn't drunk. I saw you looking at the safe. I saw the packed bag in the closet. I knew. I just didn't stop you. I think I wanted you to go, because I didn't know how to love you anymore. And I couldn't stand to watch you fade in front of me while still calling it a marriage. So I made it easy to hate me. You didn't vanish. I let you. I read it twice, then a third time. And for the first time since I left Seattle, I felt something sharp twist in my chest. Not regret, not longing, just the quiet grief of realizing that even the villain in your story might have been broken in ways you never saw. I didn't write back. There was nothing to say, but I took the letter and folded it carefully, not to keep, but to bury. I walked to the edge of the tree line and dug a hole, 6 inches deep, surrounded by pine roots and the sound of wind brushing branches. I pressed the envelope into the earth, covered it slowly, not like hiding something, like planting it, so it could stay buried, and something better could keep growing in its place. That night, I sat by the fire and stared at the stars. No phone, no voices, no memories strong enough to claw me back. Just wood smoke, crickets, and the faint sound of Jack snoring through the thin trailer walls. And for the first time in years, I said it out loud. I'm free. And I meant it. Summer rolled into late August. The light changed, not colder, just softer. Mornings started with dew on the porch rail. Nights ended with the sound of crickets and Mason's occasional late-night texts. They let me weld the frame today. Do you still eat beans straight from the can, or was that just for survival? You were right. Most people just want someone to believe in them. He was doing good. More than good. He was becoming his own man. And somehow, that felt like the most important thing I'd ever been a part of. One evening, I was hauling a bag of feed toward the stables when I saw a truck I didn't recognize pulling into the lot. Dust kicked up behind it. The door opened, and she stepped out. Olivia. Warm smile. Work boots. Hair in a braid that had started neat but unraveled in the wind. She was the town veterinarian. We'd met twice before. Once when a stray had bitten Jack. Another time when Mason found a kitten stuck under a water tank. Back then, our words were short. Professional. But today, she wasn't here on business. Brought the shots you asked for, she said, holding up the cooler. Jack already inside. I nodded. Porch nap, I think. She smiled. Figured. I reached for the cooler, but she hesitated. Mind if I hang around for a bit? I blinked. Sure. Porch has 2 chairs. We sat in silence for a while. She sipped a soda. I picked at a piece of old rope, unraveling it strand by strand. Then she said, I saw the documentary. I didn't move. I didn't recognize you at first, she added. But the way you looked at the horizon, I've seen that look before. In rescue animals. The ones who aren't scared anymore. but haven't figured out how to be soft again. That hit deeper than it should have. I looked at her. Really looked. She wasn't performing. Wasn't saving me. Wasn't filling a silence. She was just here. We didn't kiss. Didn't flirt. She stayed for an hour, then left a pack of lemon cookies on the railing with a quiet, "See you around." And I knew I would. Not because I needed her. Because I wanted to know who I was around someone like her. Someone kind. Someone steady. Someone who hadn't seen me at my worst, but might still stay when she did. That night, Mason called. Excited. Rambling. They want me to apply for the national program. Full ride. Like all the way. Trade certification. Placement after. I grinned so hard my cheeks hurt. "I'm proud of you," I said. There was a long pause. Then, "I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you." "You got here," I said. "I just handed you the map." He laughed. "Whatever, old man." Then he hung up, and I sat there, holding a phone with no more weight left in it. Later, I walked the perimeter fence. The stars were out. The moon high. I passed the tree line where I'd buried the letter. Didn't stop. Didn't look. Just kept walking. I'm not perfect. Not healed. Not whole. But I'm honest now. I know who I am. Not a cautionary tale. Not a ghost. Not a meme. Just a man who walked away when it mattered. And finally, didn't look back.